Hello, and welcome to the presentation on wilderness rescue. Night is approaching. The idea of being alone in the wilderness can be extremely appealing for some. Being away from the creations of man and surrounded by nature is truly an amazing experience. Yet even for those that are drawn in and fully embrace nature, things can go wrong. A stumble or a fall, or simply trying to take a shortcut off a trail and becoming turned around and not knowing which way you need to go, can hamper them from making it back out to civilization. They become lost and in need of rescue. Today we're going to discuss who is affected when somebody becomes lost in the wilderness, what provisions are in the Wilderness Act of 1964, and how they affect the efforts of search and rescue teams. We're also going to discuss the various agencies and how they are currently addressing the issue of finding someone when they become lost. And we're also going to talk about what solutions and resources are available to search and rescue teams and to you. Stakeholders involved in wilderness and search and rescue. First and foremost, you have the person who is lost. So parties involved in search and rescue missions can be anywhere from a single person or to a on-foot search and rescue crew. Or if it becomes a large scale, you start to involve national assets. So wilderness areas have an even finer detail of coordination amongst government parties, as well as the overall responsible group for the area, and specifically trained wilderness rescue coordinators. There are crisis response medical teams as well involved to determine the condition of the survivor and if they need any immediate medical attention. Embedded in that group as well is a person designated as public affairs and a family resource as well. Because families of the missing party have special needs. They're emotional, they're worried, they want to know where their family or their loved one is. And then the person who's hurt as well or lost. They're going to have very specific needs. Whether or not the wilderness area is managed by the Parks Department, the Forest Service, the Fish and Wildlife Department, or the Bureau of Land Management, each one has a responsibility to uphold all parameters in the Wilderness Act. Each group has rescuers who are specifically trained in that wilderness area's terrain, the forage, waterways, the climate, so they know how to navigate safely and quickly to get to a lost party. Some larger areas rely on volunteers for assistance. We're going to talk about some of those groups later in the presentation. So the Wilderness Act of 1964 and its provisions. Section 4C states that there shall be no commercial enterprise, no permanent road, no temporary road, no use of motor vehicles, motorized equipment, or motorboats, and no landing of aircraft or medical transportation. There is a clause, however, further in the Act that states, except as necessary to meet minimum requirements for the administration of the area for the purpose of this Act. The bolded areas I've highlighted are the ones that we're able to utilize for search and rescue missions, and we're going to talk about a search and rescue minimum requirements plan later in the presentation. But search and rescue crews can use motorized equipment if it meets the minimum requirements necessary. Search and rescue operations definitely occur within wilderness areas. They attempt to do it without on-the-ground vehicles and equipment. The BML and the National Park Service are both responsible for going through national or minimum requirements analysis and looking at proposed projects and activities within their wilderness or on lands. In most cases, the National Forest, the local sheriff's office, or other state or local entity will have responsibility for search and rescue operations, and likely is the organization best equipped to handle it. However, the Forest Service has the authority to approve the use of aircraft, motorized equipment, and mechanical transportation device, including wheeled carts, for these search and rescue efforts.
This section of the presentation contains management strategies for conducting search and rescue operations in wilderness areas. The Wilderness Act of 1964 is the one document that contains the majority of regulations for conducting any type of operation within a wilderness area, including search and rescue regulations. In Section 4C of that document, there is an exemption for using motorized equipment during emergencies involving the health and safety of a person within that area. If you use this in conjunction with MRDG, this will help you greatly reduce the impact of any motorized equipment used during a search and rescue operation. On this slide, you will see a list of some websites that provide some policies used by the different agencies that govern the management of wilderness areas. These policies are used for guidance in establishing any kind of memorandum of agreement or understanding between the governing agency and any state, local, federal, or volunteer organization that might assist during a search and rescue operation. This slide shows an example of some of the volunteer organizations that come to lend a hand during search and rescue operations inside the United States. These volunteer organizations provide a great wealth of training and oversight for these valuable resources that help save lives during search and rescue operations. The search and rescue plan is the single most valuable asset to any search and rescue operation. It provides guidance to all parties involved as to their roles and responsibilities and under what circumstances which operations can be performed, as well as giving a clear chain of command and providing contact information for all parties that are involved. Underneath is a web address that provides a template for creating your own search and rescue plan, as well as the search and rescue plan for one of our national forests, which contains 5 wilderness areas.
Here is an excerpt from the Deschutes National Forest Search and Rescue Plan. This is part of their motorized and mechanical equipment for search and rescue within wilderness minimum requirements for using motorized equipment. Note how they have always approve, usually approve, and never approve the use of motorized equipment. And note the criteria for each one of those approval ratings.
The best strategy for any search and rescue operation is to be prepared, to have a solid search and rescue plan in place, to make sure that all parties are properly trained and prepared for their roles, to ensure that all search and rescue equipment is properly maintained and standing by. And even though the Wilderness Act of 1964 provides an exemption for the use of motorized equipment, a lot of the terrain is so rugged in the wilderness areas that most searches will be conducted either on horse or on foot. Just last year on Memorial Day weekend, there was a person that had to be rescued from the local Mount McClellan. Just remember, be prepared, stay calm, and use your head, and have a great time in the wilderness.
Now we're going to talk about some solutions for wilderness rescue. So how do we begin to solve the issue of wilderness rescue? The special provisions of the Wilderness Act of 1964, we've already seen in depth, allow us to use airlift support and mechanized vehicles when we absolutely have to. And there are several groups today that specialize in providing training for rescue operations, including Wilderness Rescue International. This group is special. They'll actually come to whatever wilderness area and train the people who currently work in the rescue area of that wilderness. So you can become completely familiar with how to apply specific techniques to your wilderness area. We all know the Boy Scout motto, "Be prepared." In February of 1910, a very unique group of individuals was formed in America. That year, the Boy Scouts of America came into existence to, quote, lead a nation back to the emphasis on outdoor life. With that, it seems very necessary to bring them up. Be prepared. When it comes to solutions for a wilderness rescue, that motto provides that ounce of prevention that goes the furthest in the end. So expect trouble, but don't expect a rescue. Be responsible for yourself by going prepared. Reading all pertinent information is a great place to start. Like we have mentioned, anyone can get lost, but having a familiarity with the outdoors is a huge benefit if the circumstances ever fall out of your favor. We can begin discussing and teaching our children basic wilderness concepts. Boy Scouts and Girl Scout organizations are a really great place to start. However, we have to look at the visitors that may not have a lot of outdoor skills and how we can get them familiar with the area in a short amount of time. This is where a great trailhead kiosk come into play with a good map of the area and warnings specific to the wilderness you are entering. Once the hiker is lost, the process for finding them seems tedious and, depending on the terrain, can put the searchers at risk as well. This is where technology can step in and offer assistance in ways that would have taken hours, even up to the next day in the past, to get approved. But with the advent of remote-controlled quadcopters, aka drones, a lightweight, low-impact solution is available. A drone pilot can use GPS guidance to guide the copter along a specified route and stream back to the command station real-time footage of the area it is screening. The drones can even be equipped with a FLIR camera that will give the command station thermal imaging of the area that the drone is flying over. When air support for a missing individual may not be approved or may not be able to go out until hours or days later, a pilot can already be part of the search and rescue team and deploy immediately to assist in the location of the lost hiker, potentially saving time and saving a life. By emphasizing to all visitors of any outdoor facility that knowing where the path is, not straying from a clear view of the path, and having a map of the area in your hand is crucial for the survival and prevention of not being lost. Thousands of people lose their way in the forest, desert, and mountainous terrain every year. Some of them don't become large-scale rescue efforts, but some do. By being prepared and knowing what resources are available, we can help people not get lost in the wilderness. In conclusion, we have discussed our key agencies and how they are affected and involved. We talked about the Wilderness Act and the impact it has on search and rescue. We also looked at how search and rescue operations are managed within a wilderness area, and we brought up solutions with an emphasis on prevention. The wilderness is out there, and it is yours to explore. Enjoy.